Welcome to Analyst Talk with Jason Elder. It's like coffee with an analyst, or it could be whiskey with an analyst reading a spreadsheet, linking crime events, identifying a series, and getting the latest scoop on association news and training. So please don't beat that analyst and join us as we define the law enforcement analysis profession one episode at a time.
Thank you for joining me. I hope many aspects of your life are progressing. My name is Jason Elder, and today is a very special episode as we are going to review the 2023 LEIU IALEIA Annual Training Event agenda being held April 30th through May 5th. And here to help me out is Jenny Urquhart, who you may remember from being on the show, and Bob Morehouse. Jenny and Bob, how are we doing?
We're great. Thanks for having us, Jason.
Yes, we're doing great, and we appreciate the help in getting the word out.
So the way this is going to work, we're going to give some general information on the conference and work through the agenda to help people who are attending the conference work their way around to the different events to make sure that they don't miss anything. And for those of you that are listening that may not be going to this conference, maybe this convinces you next year to come to the conference and put in for it and to attend. Or maybe if you're somebody that puts on conferences, maybe we give you some ideas in terms of the format and what we're presenting to help you out with your conferences. Whatever it may be, I certainly hope you get something out of this interview. So first up, let's introduce our guest. Jenny, we'll have you go first.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, having the rose before the thorn, I appreciate that. So my name is Jenny Urquhart. I am currently the communications director for IALEIA, the International Association of Law Enforcement Intelligence Analysts. This is my second time back on the board, so super excited to be working with a good group and crew of people that are, have like minds and goals. I'm a Canadian. I'm a retired analyst from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And I thoroughly enjoyed my career so much that I wanted to be a part of somehow, making it better for those of us that are coming behind us. One of my jobs as a communications director now is also being part of the conference planning committee, which is a little bit like coming home. I did this at the very beginning when LEIU and IALEIA started working together. So it's really nice to sort of be back in the fold. I am past president of IALEIA, so I can see how this conference is both a lot of work and also super beneficial for those of us that participate and that are a part of it. So I'll leave it at that and hand it over to one of my dear friends, Bob.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Morehouse. I'm the executive director of training for LEIU, and the LEIU stands for the Association of Law Enforcement Intelligence Units. I've been working with them as both their executive director and in training since 2004, actually. That's when I retired. Previous to that, I was the manager of the intelligence unit for the California Department of Justice for about 32 years, worked for the department for 35 years. So I've been in intelligence related kind of activities for most of 99.9% of my career. So, and as Jenny said, one of the things that when I did retire, I went to work for LEIU because I wanted to stay in the business, and I really thoroughly enjoy both the people and the topics and the things that happen in the criminal intelligence environment. And the people I got to meet and have met and continue to meet throughout this thing has kept me going. So I'm still around. I still go to do training. I'm also do a lot of the Foundations of Intelligence Analysis training, the FIAT training that lots of people have gone through. But for this instance, we're talking about the annual training conference between LEIU and IALEIA. And I did want to describe a little bit about LEIU. LEIU is about 200 law enforcement agencies in the United States and Canada. It's been around since 1956. So not a lot of people know who we are, but we've been around a long time. And certainly I haven't been around with them, but they've been doing training and intelligence kind of activities for that long. So it's law enforcement only, but as opposed to IALEIA, and that's what it is, makes it a really nice thing. Many of the IALEIA membership belong to the LEIU agency. So we are a natural fit. And so where IALEIA is an individually based membership, LEIU is an agency based membership. So we really do good working together.
Jenny, let's start with a general conference introduction for maybe those that are going to be brand new to the conference. Just to go through who normally attends these
Sure.
conferences, who presents, typical topics, goals of the conference, maybe how you and Bob got, linked together so many years ago.
Sure. I'll start with kind of like a general overview. So, really, the conference has evolved in a very good way, but some of the general themes still exist. We are looking to identify general skills of analysts and intelligence officers, how to improve upon that. We're looking at best practices. So we have a lot of, post-case analysis, a lot of learning about what worked and what didn't. We also talk and try to identify, future trends and future themes that may become priorities for those of us here, depending on what agency you're working in, what side of the border or where in the world that you are. It's also really focusing on things like software and tools that we find ourselves using within our workplace. It's not only sort of getting up to speed with the tools that we currently have, but being able to go back to our managers and our agencies and say, you know what, I found this really new cool tool or software that I think would be really useful for the kinds of products and that we're being asked to tackle here. So that's kind of like the main theme. Who attends? Well, that's a really great question because it is a mix. It's a mix of working on the ground, intelligence analysts, strategic analysts, operation analysts. It's intelligence officers and collectors and, the boots on the ground. And it's intelligence managers, chiefs, at all levels. And I think having those three main pools of people coming together, it really allows us to both have a better understanding of the challenges that managers face and managers being able to really sort of see what the analysts and the collectors, intelligence officers are doing on the ground. So we take pride in that, having all three aspects together, coming together for this conference. A little bit about Bob and I, going way back, 2005. I think it was the second time that LEIU and IALEIA had a conference together, and that conference was actually held in Vancouver, my hometown. So Bob and I, both as conference planners for our respective agencies, came together and met each other. And that, as you can see, is going back almost 25 years. I've had the pleasure of calling Bob a friend of mine. He is a unique person. He is fun to work with. He's got a story and example about everything. And for those of you that are lucky enough to attend this year's conference, if you have not met Bob, seek him out, introduce yourselves and say hello, because he is by far one of the best people that I know and one of the best mentors I've had in my career. I'm not trying to blow smoke here, Bob. It's really true. That's how I feel.
All that means to me is I'm old, Jason.
Yeah, I think we need to get you a special hat so people can easily recognize you.
Yeah.
All right, Bob. So as I mentioned in the intro, this conference begins Sunday, April 30th, but I failed to mention we are in Las Vegas. The registration begins on Sunday, so let's just start there with our introduction as we proceed through the entire agenda.
Okay. Yes, it's at what used to be the Bally's Resort Casino. It's now the Horseshoe. Registration, as Jason said, registration starts Sunday, April 30th at noon and goes until 5. Then it opens again on Monday morning at 7 a.m. So bright and early that morning so we can get everybody ready and get to going in various kinds of meetings. The actual opening ceremonies for the training event is at Monday at 1 p.m. So that's 1 o'clock until 2:30. We'll have VIPs that will be welcoming both organizations. Both organizations' presidents will introduce their boards and welcome the attendees into the training. We'll have a recognition of our international agencies with a flag ceremony. It's kind of something that evolved some time ago, way back when, like as Jenny said, when starting in 2004 and 05, that we thought it was important to highlight the fact that both organizations are international in flavor, and we wanted to recognize our international members. So we actually have flags for them to carry in, and we're able to take photos and those kinds of things. So that opening ceremonies is 1.5 hours from 1 till 2:30. We'll take a break then, and then we go into our actual training beginning at 3 o'clock on Monday. And It'll be in the Monday and Tuesday will be in general session. In other words, there are no breakouts. It's all in a large meeting room. We do have a special speakers on from that Monday, 3 to 5. It's briefings and lessons learned from the recent active shooting incidents, including since we're in Las Vegas, the Las Vegas shooting that occurred several years ago will be discussed as well. And the deputy chief of the Las Vegas Metro PD will be one of the speakers, and then another speaker will be from Live Nation, and which Ticketmaster Live Nation, and that person will be discussing the security and things that they see and the preparations that they go into to try to keep attendees safe and those kind of things. So it's going to be a nice special kickoff to our Monday. So we go from there.
Yeah, I agree. That should be a great presentation. And I think that's something that is fairly new to analyst conferences last couple years. You're seeing more and more presentations on live event type incidents, whether it's an active shooter or a protest or a riot. We're getting more and more presentations with that at these conferences. So that's obviously saying that's something that analysts and law enforcement are being asked to do to help out with.
Yes, and as Jenny said, one of the things that is our goal for all this overall training is to not only in these live events that we have to that everybody deals with in these days, is to make sure that we're handling them in a professional and legal manner. So we have to. That's part of our training is we are professionals in this. We are, this is not reactionary stuff. We need to be prepared for it.
Yeah. So, all right. So that finishes out our Monday. And just to reiterate, there's only one track. So we're not splitting up the team just yet. On Monday and Tuesday, there's just one set of presentations going on at once. So let's continue, Bob, with Tuesday morning with profiling extremists in riots and demonstrations.
Right. So then Tuesday again, we have in general session, so everybody's together. We will have 4 different presentations, profiling extremists in riots and demonstrations. But we also will have, the next hour and a half will be before the lunch break, we'll have a presentation on the current status of the outlaw motorcycle gangs in the United States and Canada, and worldwide actually. So, and then number 3 is Operation Talalgia. This was a tactical operation and a drug smuggling investigation, and we wanted to. This is really discussing how important the tactical intelligence is in bringing a major drug investigation to conclusion. So the tactical intelligence that led to this and how it got together with the investigators and provided that support. And then finally, in the end of that day, we'll talk about involvement of organized violent extremists in protest style events, and those are the ones that we again protests that are peaceful and that we have no problem. Is when we get involved in violent extremists on either side that we want to look at and try to make sure we can plan for.
Jenny, back to you then. Before we go back to Bob with Wednesday and Thursday sessions, I do want to talk about the evening sessions throughout the week, because just like with any conferences, one of the best things that you can get out of conferences is meeting new people and networking. So let's talk about the networking opportunities that are going on in the evenings this week.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Yes, networking is also one of our key metrics and things that we want to provide opportunities for our attendees, for sure. And we are, very lucky that we have a number of sponsors who help us allow to have these kinds of events for our attendees. So on Monday night, our first networking event is sponsored by ACES. And these networking events happen right after class at 5:30 after the classes stop. And it's a chance for you to have a drink if you wish, meet new people, talk to the sponsors of that particular event. And, like we always are encouraging, collect those business cards so that you can improve your network. Tuesday's networking opportunity is sponsored by Cobwebs Technology. Again, very interesting software. If you get a chance to go and check them out, I really encourage it. Wednesday is Micro Focus, fairly new sponsor for us, so we're looking forward to that. Thursday, we have a special farewell reception. What makes it special? there's a little more food at this one, and there's high tops, and it's a little fancier. We're not going to lie there. That event is sponsored by Esri, and we're always really proud to have their support for our events. So again, take that opportunity. You don't have to be there all evening. In fact, we try to wind these down about 7 o'clock, so you have a chance to go for dinner with the new friends that you've met. But it is really an environment for you to go and talk to the speakers that you found interesting, to specifically seek out a person from a particular agency or part of the country that you've been trying to connect with, all of these things. So we really take pride in encouraging these network opportunities.
And I also recommend to people, talk to the different vendors, because you may be having issues at your department or unit with collection, with data organization, reporting. You want to get to the analysis, but you have things that are bogging you down. And these vendors are going to have ways to help you. And whether you feel that maybe your department can afford it or not, at least take the opportunity to talk to see what all these different vendors have. So then you're in the know of what's out there and whether it can help you and your agency.
Thanks for saying that, Jason. I really appreciate that. One of the things that I always say to the sponsors and vendors is that, listen, the people with the wallets may not be at this particular event, but the people that are going to use your software, that's who's at this event. So, when you're out speaking to the sponsors and vendors, they may be asking you questions about, what's working, what's not working, and they really take this as an opportunity to fine tune those products that they are creating for us. So thanks for mentioning that. We really do encourage that as well.
We have about 30 different vendors there, not just these 3 that or 4 that we had highlighted here for our hospitalities, but we have actually about 30 different vendors and sponsors coming in. So they're all over the place, and from mapping to information management. As Jenny said, the people there may not have the checkbook, but they certainly are the people who recommend to the people who have a checkbook. And that's what's really important there. So go look at these things, and that's why we do breaks of about a half an hour. We have a vendor room. Go there. That's where we put our food, so you can go talk to them.
Nice. All right. So Wednesday, then, we are going to split up the sessions into different breakout rooms. Bob, let's just go over the general setup for Wednesday and Thursday, because there's a particular way things are done, and really to allow attendees to get the most out of these 2 days.
Yep. So as Jason said, that beginning Wednesday, we will have what we call breakout sessions, and there will be classes that are given from an hour and a half in 5 different location rooms. So there's from 8 to 9:30, from 10 to 11:30, from 1 to 2:30, and then from 3 into 5. So we do have 5 different classes going on at the same time, and every class that you see on Wednesday then is repeated again on Thursday. That's when most people go, well, wait a minute, there's the same class. Yeah, they are. Because there are so many classes, we want to give you the opportunity to pick and choose. And that's the beauty to this training event that we have. And that's when we went to this several years ago, is that instead of forcing you into one area, we can let you pick and choose what you want to see. I mean, physically, you can only go to like 10 of these classes. So we want you to pick and choose, because we have like 22 of them. So they're really good classes, and we've been excited about the speakers we've got this year. The only things that will be not duplicated on Thursday are our sponsor-led presentations, because we do have our sponsors, our 4 big sponsors that will be doing a presentation on 2 on Wednesday and 2 on Thursday. They're different. And then the one training that's not going to be duplicated, but it's related, is Lenny Leedy from ACES will be doing a presentation on Excel, but on Wednesday it will be the basics of Excel, and then on Thursday it's more advanced Excel. So it's not the duplicate kind of training, but it's a related training. So
just to add to that, if you have not had a chance to sit through Lenny Leedy's Excel classes, they are something to see. He's been on my program, and I've known Lenny for over a decade now, and he really knows his stuff when it comes to Excel.
Yeah, he's usually one of our highest rated speakers. So we try to get him in there to do this kind of training. The nice thing about Lenny is that he's, again, one of those that he doesn't talk about ACEs much because he just talks about Excel. That's his passion, and he likes it. Again, those classes, we're dedicated to the certification programs. And then I'll let Jenny describe that program now.
Sure, my pleasure. As I said, one of the sort of evolutions of this conference that I'm really proud of is we determined that to really make it as targeted and useful for attendees is that we wanted to identify some particular tracks. We call them certification tracks. We have 4 tracks this year, one being fundamentals in criminal intelligence. Now, to gather credit for these tracks, you have to attend both sessions that are classified as being part of this particular certificate. And they are offered, again, twice, one on Wednesday and one on Thursday, which allows you to do both. So when we're talking about the first track, Fundamentals in Criminal Intelligence, the first mandatory class is Strategies for Success as an Intelligence Analyst. That's presented by Michael Hale. And the second necessary class for that track is Critical Thinking and Biases in Analysis, that is brought to us by Hamilton County Sheriff's Department and NW3C. The second track to consider is Fundamentals in Cyber Investigative Tools. This year, the mandatory classes for that are Online Deception, Awareness, Detection, and Countermeasures. That class is offered by the Satnams, a couple from the Netherlands who are responsible for running the International Anti-Crime Agency. And the second mandatory class is Dark Web, Exposition, and Tradecraft, brought to us by the Missouri Office of Homeland Security members. The third track, Fundamentals in Advanced Analytical Skills. The first class is Developing and Implementing an Early Warning System to Address Violent Crime. That's going to be presented by 2 analysts from the Toronto Police Service. And then the second mandatory class for that section is Offender Management using Microsoft Power BI Dashboards, brought to us by yet another couple of Canadians out of Calgary Police Department. The fourth and final track is Fundamentals in Criminal Intelligence Unit Supervision/Management. The mandatory classes for that will be Criminal Intelligence Unit Officer in Charge. That will be presented by, you guessed it, Bob Morehouse, Brian Gray, and we're really fortunate to have Russ Porter with us all week. He's also going to be a presenter in that particular session. And the second mandatory class for that track, Establishing and Managing a Real-Time Crime Center, will be presented by a manager from the New Jersey Real-Time Crime Center. So we're really excited about these tracks, and you can obtain all of these tracks if you manage your schedule correct. So keep that in mind. But, it gives our attendees a chance to maybe identify those things that are more relevant to them and to be able to go back to the workplace, not only with a certificate of attending the conference, but recognition of the type of training that they focused on during the week.
Yeah, and just to add comment to that management class that's you mentioned there with Brian Gray. Brian Gray is another one that I had on my show. I've known him for over a decade. We taught Fiat classes together, and he's getting long in the tooth. I know he's looking at retirement, so I don't know how many years we have Brian teaching at this conference, and I highly recommend that you introduce yourself to Brian, because he's a wealth of knowledge as well.
My goodness, Jason, if you think Brian Gray's getting long in the tooth, God help me.
I didn't want to say it, Bob.
Well, I know Brian's looking to raise horses, so I know
he's raising horses. He's moved to Tennessee.
Yeah. So he might not continue like you've continued after retirement. So
yeah, he's doing pretty good still, though. He's still doing some training, so he hangs right in there. But yeah, you've known him for a decade, and I've known him for probably 2 decades. So
nice.
He's been a good friend of mine for years. So, and then again, as Jenny said, Russ Porter, who was originally from the Iowa Department of Public Safety, but then went to work for the Director of National Intelligence, brings a wealth of knowledge both in the enforcement as well as the national intelligence environment. So that'll be a good class.
All right. And Jenny, just how is attendance going to be kept? Is that something where attendees have to sign in, or are they using the app?
Great question, Jason. They will be scanned. The badge that you get when you register will have a barcode, and it will allow us to scan your entry into the door where the classes are being attended. And that's how we capture who is attending what class.
Okay.
We only, yeah, but we only scan. That's what people always ask. Where's the scanner for this other class? Well, we don't keep attendance for the non-certification classes. Just the certification classes, the only things we scan.
And just as Jenny said, you can get all 4 certificates because the classes repeat Wednesday and Thursday. So you can earn 2 certificates on Wednesday and then the other 2 on Thursday.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the big thing I always tell people, don't get too excited about trying to get into that very first class. They are given again. So sometimes what we end up is with 300 people try to get in on Wednesday and 10 try to get on Thursday. So
Yeah.
it's given twice. So and we have them in our largest training rooms.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and so and even with the non-certificate sessions, there's plenty there. Check out the agenda. There's topics on everything that you can think of, and certainly there's a lot you can get out of these 2 days. I guess I mentioned the app. Just like with any conferences, it's recommended that you download the app on your phone, and that's going to give you updates throughout the whole week. It's going to push out notifications. It's going to give you the agenda, give you everything that where you're supposed to be. There's usually maps involved. There's a lot there. You can review each session because just like any conference coordinator, they want feedback from the attendees on what's working, what's not working. So there's opportunity for you, the attendee, to give some feedback throughout the week, not just on the very last day.
Thanks for saying that, Jason, because we do use the results of the feedback to rate the success of the speakers, because the speakers also would like feedback. We give that feedback to our respective agencies, and it helps us plan for the next upcoming conferences, what topics were of great interest and particular speakers. So, those of us that work in intelligence, particularly analysis, we know how much we rely on that kind of data. So, we really do encourage that people, give us that feedback so that we can use it.
Yeah.
Yes, as you said, Jason, there will be, it hasn't been released yet, but the app will let you know where, when we release the app and you download it, that is your schedule. That tells you everything that's going on. You can even message other people who are in attendance. You can connect with them and send them a message. So this app is, as you said, it'll have maps, it'll have our sponsors, it'll have locations of everybody. Everything you wanted to do, it can get on your phone or your iPad or your mobile device of some sort.
Great. And then let's talk about Friday. There's always the person that gets the short straw, I guess. And there's 2 sessions there. We go back to just a singular set of general sessions, and we just have 2 sessions in the morning. And Jenny, let's talk about those.
Sure. And, again, it is Friday, but don't think that the classes that we have on Friday are any less interesting or important than that we have through the week. So I always encourage those attending to make sure you include these 2 on your schedule as well. The first presentation we have that discusses fragile borders is actually presented by 3 of our Nigerian attendees. They have been attending our conferences for a number of years, and this is the 2nd or 3rd time that they are presenting. So we really, encourage you to support our international members and attendees by coming to this particular presentation. Baba Ntunde has been at conferences for probably 15, 20 years. So we really want to give support back to that. The second class on Friday is a presentation regarding urban gangs, and that's given to us by members of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. Again, going to be a really interesting topic, interesting presentation, and we encourage everybody to join those folks and to join us there for listening to these people present on Friday.
I've been on that presenter on the final day, so I know the feeling there, and really do encourage people to come out on that final day. I do wish that these presenters would get something special, a little token for getting the short straw and being on the last day. I don't know if there's a little token you can give the presenters for that or not.
That's good feedback, Jason. All of our presenters get little gifts, but we should see if we can maybe do something special for the Friday crew.
Yeah, I'm going to give everybody on a Friday $1 million. So it's coming from the IALEIA Treasury.
Oh yeah, sure, Bob.
All right, good. All right, Jenny, what we're going to do now is talk a little bit about the I in IALEIA and just give an overview of the international impact to this conference.
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. It is sort of one of my things that I've always been very passionate about, both when I was president of IALEIA and still now currently on the board. We are really fortunate to, at this stage, this amount of time before the conference, to have 10 countries already identified as sending representatives to our training event. And we do our best to identify our visiting folks, to make everybody aware of who they are, and encourage everybody to go and speak to our international guests. It is really an opportunity for them to not only shine and to show some of the best products they have. I mean, we've got 3 presentations from Canadians and 3 presentations from the National Crime Agency out of the UK, not to mention the Satnams and our Nigerian friends from Nigerian Customs Service. So we do have presentations that are also representing our international flavor. I would suggest for those of you that are attending, that are listening to this podcast, at least try to speak to 1 or 2 of our international guests and make them feel welcome, and ask them questions about how they're doing things and how they feel about their interpretation of how we do things here. It is, again, really something that we're proud of, that we are recognized as an international training event, and we strive to continue that.
All right, good. And as we're getting towards the tail end of this interview, for the listeners, there will be links to all this information in the show notes. So if you want more information on the conference, the agenda, any updates, you can see the links in the show notes.
I was going to say that you can go to either of the organization's web pages. LEIA's is IALEIA.org, and LEIU is LEIU.org, and there's a link to the agenda and everything you need to know about the conference.
Good. And if you are unaware of my podcast, I'm going to give a shameful plug now. I publish a weekly podcast. Every Monday, I interview a law enforcement analyst to get their perspective and contributions to the profession. And so if you're interested in being interviewed to give your contributions to this great profession, please email me at leapodcasts@gmail.com. All right, Jenny and Bob, before I give your final thoughts, I don't know about you, but I never thought law enforcement would ever be okay having a conference in Las Vegas. And it seems like that's definitely something that's changed in the last, 4 or 5 years now, that Las Vegas has become more of an acceptable destination, even for government and law enforcement. So I just wanted to throw that out there to get your comment on that.
Yeah, actually, this is probably our second conference in Las Vegas, and it was very successful the first time around. But, the people who attend our training are very serious professionals. So we've never seen where, the old days you could find people out at a gambling table or going to the pool or doing other things like that. We find them and they're in class. It's important to them to get this training, and we don't have a problem with people not attending the training.
I would say, thinking along, that's true. I totally agree with Bob. The other thing too is that it sort of comes down a little bit to logistics at times, because our conference is big. I mean, we will likely have over 600 attendees this year. That kind of limits the places that we can hold an event like this, because it's really important to us that we're all together. We don't want to have people in a bunch of different hotels or, at a big conference center where people have to transit in every morning. So Vegas is one of those places that allows us to pick a hotel that has enough training rooms within them. So just from a logistic point of view, that's one of the reasons why, Vegas makes the list. But yeah, it is not without its kind of, past reputation, so to speak. But again, we like to think, because our training is such high standard, that people choose to come to the training as opposed to doing the, those other kind of things that you could do in Vegas.
Good. Well, I like to end every interview with some final thoughts. So, Bob, I'll start with you, and then I'll go to Jenny.
Okay, so in terms of kind of wrapping it up for me, as I've been involved in these training conferences, both singly with LEIU and jointly with IALEIA since 1980, and And so we have, and the best thing we ever did was join together because we're more powerful. We always thought it would be strange if we got together that we would probably, split our constituencies, but in fact, it made us stronger. We would have 200 people at each of our individual conferences, and then together we have 600. So it's been a great partnership and a great ability to put the two things together, the analytical side as well as the law enforcement and enforcement side, intelligence side. My final thoughts are this is our chance and our turn to shine and teach people and try to make an emphasis on doing the professional intelligence training. And that's what our goal is in this thing. And I might leave us just one thing next year for those, as you said, some people are not going this year, but they might want to consider next year. And it's going to be in New Orleans actually next year, April 22 through 26. So there will be flyers about that coming out. So if you want to pre-plan that, that's the dates. And we had a conference there not long ago, and it was a great time there. We had a great host, and we had a great hotel, and it's down off of Bourbon Street, but it's walking distance to all the sites. So it's a great conference we had then.
Yeah, and you avoid hurricane season, so that's another point.
That's correct.
And Jenny?
Yeah, sure. Just a couple of things I want to make sure are mentioned. One is, sometimes we get kind of long in our career and, we think that we kind of know everything we need to know. We always want to have the mindset, never stop learning. Training opportunities like this are really invigorating for those of us that have been on the job for a while, and they're really, enlightening for the new analysts that we have coming into the field. So, never think that there's nothing you can learn from attending something like this. For those analysts who fall into the introverted category, I do know that sometimes the networking can be a little bit overwhelming or things like that. The one thing I would say to the introverted brothers and sisters like myself, say to yourself, I'm gonna get 5 business cards today, or I'm gonna get the contact information for 5 people, and make that your goal. And you'll come out of it with a large, robust new network that you never had before. The last thing I want to say is I just want to have a shout out to the Las Vegas Police Department that has been helping us organize this on the ground, providing us with support, volunteers, places to ship our material. They have been really, really helpful and really, really great putting this conference together and helping us. And I just wanted to give them a shout out here as well.
Very good. And to our listeners, thank you for listening. And to Bob, to Jenny, thank you for joining me, giving us all this great information. Best of luck in the conference. Safe travels to everybody. And I hope it turns out to be the best conference ever.
Come and say hi.
Yep, say hi. I'm one of those introverted guys, so if I'm really shy, don't worry about it.
Thank you for making it to the end of another episode of Analyst Talk with Jason Elder. You can show your support by sharing this and other episodes found on our website at www.leapodcasts.com. If you have a topic you would like us to cover or have a suggestion for our next guest, please send us an email at leapodcasts@gmail.com. Till next time, analysts, keep talking.